Today we're going to walk through a pastry dough recipe that we use for our pies, tarts. Very simple, but fabulous. Everything that we do, our recipe, we weigh everything rather than doing cup measurements because you have more consistency, because how you measure a cup of flour is going to be different from how I measure a cup of flour. That's just the way it is. Weighing is the way to go. First, we're going to weigh out our flour. For this quantity, we're going to do 735 grams. We're going to do a tablespoon of salt, then a touch of brown sugar, so 3 tablespoons. And actually, if you were doing a savory, like a chicken pot pie, that kind of a thing, you can actually omit the sugar. So we just put it in the mixer, mix that up. So this recipe calls for 675 grams of unsalted butter. You cut your cold butter, you cut it into little cubes. And the colder the butter, the better. Cold butter makes it flakier. So that's actually why after we're done making our dough, we chill it. 675 grams. We have 676, close enough. In it goes. And we just mix it on low for a couple minutes. So you just want it to get so that all the butter is coated in flour. Next, we need 120 grams of egg yolk. So no egg whites. And so 120 grams typically should be 6 eggs. Usually 1 egg yolk is 20 grams. And then we're going to use milk, 135. We like whole milk just because whole milk is just a fuller milk. So we just break up the egg yolks a little bit. It doesn't have to be super crazy mixed. And then we just add it into our butter and flour mixture. And you're just gonna mix until it all comes together. And then we pull this sticky mess off of the paddle. So you'll see chunks of butter, and that is a good thing. So we're just gonna press it all together, and then we will tightly saran wrap it and chill it in the fridge for 20 to 30 minutes. If you're tight on time, throw it in the freezer for 10. You just want to get it cold so that when you roll it, it doesn't stick to your rolling pin like crazy. So next we roll out our dough. I always flour my rolling pin by just rubbing flour on it. And when it comes out of the fridge, it can be a little bit cold, and then it takes a little more elbow grease. If you've put it into the fridge and it's really thick, like if it was like, say it was like this, that would be really hard. And you can beat it and take out all your frustrations, or just break it into smaller chunks to make it easier to work with. And you can see the butter pieces in there, and it's beautiful. And the sign of a future flaky crust. So we roll it out to about a 1/4 inch, a little less than a 1/4 inch thick. So usually I put my pie plate on it, and I want it to be about 1 inch around the pie plate. And then, because it's nice and cold, I can just pick it up. And it just goes in to the pie plate. The excess, we fold under. If you have way too much to fold under, you can cut some, like trim it off a bit. Otherwise it gets a little bit wonky. And then we crimp it. So I just take this finger and just kind of press into the finger so you get this pretty little ripple effect all the way around. And then we send this back to the fridge or the freezer to chill again, because we want our pie crust to be super cold when it hits the oven. Before we bake our pies, we always blind bake them. You can just fill this with your filling and go straight to the oven, and it'll be fine. However, if you blind bake it, it just allows for a less soggy bottom crust. What it means is you bake the crust without the filling. So we take wax paper and press it into the pie plate. And then we take pie weights. You can use like actual pie weights from the store, which are usually expensive and they never have enough to actually fill a pie. Or you can get dry beans. So we always use dry beans. These are chickpeas. It's actually a mix of random things, but it's going to hold the crust in its place so that when we bake it, we don't lose our form in the oven. Stuff the paper into the little nooks and crannies of the pie shell, and you want to fill it pretty full, like as full as your paper will allow, because if you don't, then it's still going to sag, and then you would have done all this effort for nothing. So once you've got it nice and full, and you just bake it for like 15 or 20 minutes. So this will go to the oven at 350 degrees for 20 minutes. So after you've taken your pre-baked pie out of the oven, you can kind of touch up the edges. This has chilled a little bit. So sometimes if you let it chill, if you take the weights out too soon, then it can get a little bit soggy. So you want to keep that in mind. So today we're doing a triple berry pie. We made our filling. All we did was bought a big bag of triple berries, frozen triple berries, dump it in a pan, add a cup of white sugar, half a cup of cornstarch, a little bit of lemon juice, cook it. We let it chill overnight. So we just pour it into the pie plate and get it nice and level. We're gonna do a little leaf-shaped topping. So we just cut this out of our pastry dough with a cookie cutter. We just take an egg wash and we brush our crust with the egg wash. The egg wash is 1 egg, whisk it really good, and then a splash of milk, and then whisk that in there. And then you brush, and then you just do that for all of your little toppings. And then we just take coarse sugar and sprinkle it on top. And then it'll bake for 35 minutes at 350 degrees.